In 1926, Dr. Sidney Long and a group of his friends founded Norfolk Naturalists Trust. Known today as Norfolk Wildlife Trust, for 90 years it has been protecting our rare wildlife. Visiting its nature reserves and meeting its wardens and volunteers, we'll be exploring its 90-year history. This is Wild Norfolk. One of the Norfolk landscapes that was closest to the heart of Sidney Long, founder of Norfolk Naturalists Trust, was the Brecks. He was so fond of the landscape here and its wildlife that he cherished a desire to protect important areas of remaining Breck grassland. By the 1930s, most of the Breck grassland had been lost, planted with non-native conifers. In 1932, Sidney Long hit on the idea of buying 3 cottages in the village of Weething Heath. This move gave Norfolk Naturalists Trust commoners' rights over the fabulous remaining Breck grassland at Weething Heath Warren, meaning they could veto development of the site that was already threatened with afforestation. However, tragically, in 1939, war was declared across Europe, and Weething Heath Warren was requisitioned for the war effort and converted to the airbase that we know there today. On the 15th of January 1939, Sidney Long died, having become seriously ill in December. Norfolk Naturalists Trust Christmas card for 1939 featured a wheatear and went with a note explaining that this had been a favourite bird of Sidney Long's, one he sought each year at East Wretham Heath in spring. Within a year, Norfolk Naturalists Trust was engaged in negotiations to buy the heath and establish its first Breckland Nature Reserve in honour of its founder. And here, on the shore of Langmere, one of the most important wildlife habitats at East Wretham Heath, Norfolk Naturalists Trust erected a stone in memory of Sidney Long, a quiet memorial to a quiet man who changed the face of nature conservation in Britain. Langmere is one of a number of strange Breckland water bodies known as the fluctuating meres. Their water rises from the underlying chalk and, in a way that's little understood, it comes and goes. In some years, there's plenty of water, and in others, absolutely none. Of course, modern conservation is not just about land ownership. It's also about working in partnership, and since 2014, Norfolk Wildlife Trust has been working with the RSPB, with the University of East Anglia, with Norfolk County Council and with many others in a project which is known as Breaking New Ground. One of its key initiatives is ground disturbance. Many of the Breck's rarest species, including rare annual plants and indeed the stone curlew, depend on disturbed ground for their survival. This is a habitat that's been largely lost across the Brecks landscape, so Breaking New Ground is actively disturbing ground on nature reserves and private land in order to provide habitat for these rare creatures. Another initiative is Wings Over the Brecks, in which cameras are placed in the nests of some of the Brecks' rarest birds, species like woodlark, goshawk, nightjar and stone curlew. As a result, people in visitor centres across the region are able to explore the secret lives of these otherwise secretive species. It's been a long journey to reach such modern initiatives in conservation, and the story, of course, goes back many decades. During the 1940s, Norfolk Naturalists Trust expanded its presence in the Brecks thanks to the generosity of Christopher Cadbury, who donated Thetford and Weething Heaths. Here at Weething Heath, Sophie Harrison is telling me about another Norfolk Wildlife Trust innovation. Sophie, what's so special about the Arable Weeds Reserve here at Weething Heath?
Well, actually the fact that we work in partnership with the farmer and we manage it specially, doing something completely different that's not been done before, and actually break up this ground, which is all part of the Brecks work, to create a perfect environment for all these rare Breckland plants where they need that disturbance to come through.
So you're talking about annual plants, plants that need the soil to be disturbed?
Yeah, and they start in the seed bank and they need that generation of the rotivation and together with the dry weather to maximise their population.
So now there's space
Yeah.
for these rare plants to live. And what are some of the rarest species that you're protecting?
So very excitingly, we have 3 different types of speedwell. We have the spring speedwell, which is really, really small with a tiny little beautiful blue flower. The fingered speedwell, which we describe as like the sausage flower, because it's got 3 distinctive big lobed leaves.
Fingers?
Yeah, fingers. And then we've also got the Breckland speedwell as well, which is rare specialist, which only grows in certain parts of the Brecks. And we did all the transects and did all the counts, and we had thousands of them, so that was really positive.
And over here you've got a different form of management of breaking ground. What's going on?
Yeah, so this is the turf strip, and basically what we've done is we've taken off the tops, we've taken off the top of the grass, and actually only about 6 inches, so we can actually bring the surface and encourage the seed bank to come through to encourage some of these Breckland plants. And that's what that of the area in the arable weed would have looked like earlier in the spring. It was all bare.
And it's pretty scuffed up. There are hoof prints all over it. What's that all about?
So one thing that makes Weething Heath so unique is we have the largest herd of Dartmoor ponies. We actually have 43, they're absolutely gorgeous, but more importantly, they do a serious job. They actually help us keep all this grass down. They've actually just been moved into this particular paddock, so that's why it probably doesn't look very grazed at the moment, but they literally graze it within an inch, so they actually do a fantastic job and really help our Breckland plants.
Ideal for the conservation of these rare species. And Christopher Cadbury, who gave Norfolk Wildlife Trust the reserve, what do you think he would think of it?
I think his heart would melt like chocolate because he'd be so chuffed about all the work we're doing here, how hard we're working with the farmer, with the grazing, with the ponies, actually disturbing the ground and doing all this. I think he'd be really pleased.
Since the purchase of East Wretham Heath in 1939, Norfolk Wildlife Trust and its partners have been working to protect and restore the wildlife and wild landscapes of the Brecks. And everything that's been achieved stems from the passion and vision of a Norwich doctor in 1926, Dr. Sidney Long.